The war of aggression by Russia on Ukraine has already deeply transformed the European Union. We are anchored in our values of peace, security and prosperity, and the summit which has just finished had an historic dimension to it because we have decided to open negotiations with Ukraine and Moldova and to give candidate country status to Georgia. We've also decided to open up negotiations with Bosnia and Herzegovina once they have reached the sufficient level of compliance with the criteria, and we have a meeting planned in March that will help us to make that decision.
A signal of hope, a signal of confidence, and it's a clear choice that we are making because we are absolutely convinced that enlargement is an investment in peace, in security, and in prosperity. This is a very powerful political message that we send to our European citizens and that we send to the citizens of the candidate countries and to the rest of the world. We had also on our agenda for this European summit the review of the multi-annual framework. And you know that yesterday evening we made a decision. 26 Member States decided to support the proposal of a review of the multi-annual framework. 26, this is not enough to make a legally binding decision, and that's why we will revert early next year. We'll have a special summit with the aim to convince 27 Member States to agree on this proposal. But the main topic is the fact that this proposal, agreed, firmly supported by 26 Member States, is a very well-balanced proposal. On the one hand, this is a translation of a firm commitment confirmed yesterday by 26 Member States to support Ukraine with an additional package of 50 billion euros. It's a clear message, a clear promise, supported firmly, I repeat again, by 26 Member States, point one. But this package takes into account some very important priorities for all of us at the European Union's level: migration, solidarity fund, or defence, for instance, and also the importance to pay the interest that we need to pay because of our choices to invest together in a common future. That's why I would like to repeat again that I am extremely confident and optimistic that we will be in a position to fulfill on our promises to support Ukraine with financial means in the weeks to come. I am confident that the decision will be formalized. Enfin, nous avons eu l'occasion ce matin.
We had the opportunity this morning to have an extremely important strategic discussion on the situation in the Middle East. It was a very important discussion. They're direct neighbours. It's a conflict which is extremely dramatic. It's led to a lot of suffering and distress. And it also has an impact in terms of stabilisation of society, polarisation of our society. And that's why the European Union needs to be committed and involved as far as possible in trying to have an impact on what is happening. I just want to share some of the points that is a bit of a summary of our work on this topic today. On the one hand, there is strong unity around the guarantee of security for Israel. Israel has the right to its security, it has the right to exist, and that's why on repeated occasions we have continued to condemn Hamas's terrorist attacks and the choice of Hamas to use civilians as human shields. We urge and call upon Hamas to release unconditionally the remaining hostages immediately, and we also repeat that the right to defend itself in Israel has to be carried out in compliance with international law. And we reiterate again also that humanitarian support and aid must be guaranteed. Among some of the members of the European Council, there are different feelings and sentiments about the idea of a pause, a humanitarian pause, supported by others, and a humanitarian ceasefire, supported by others. But the essential points, I think, are linked to 2 points. a joint commitment to further support and offer support on humanitarian aid and to ensure that humanitarian access for aid is open. And there have been specific examples and initiatives taken to ensure that happen, whether they be hospitals, ships that are deployed in the vicinity, or Cyprus's initiative to make available a maritime corridor to favour and facilitate access to humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. But what's also been said is that it's important to commit in terms of solidarity and to ensure more maritime security, and security and safety is also something that the Member States and the European Union can have a role on. Now, alongside this humanitarian dimension which unites us, another essential point is not just to reiterate the traditional standpoint of the EU, but its commitment to the political process for a two-state solution. And that means that the European Union countries have to work in an accelerated way to build upon this, and many Member States today mentioned this, that we need to continue to work and to progress on this. They are some of the elements that were discussed. Some people said that we should quite rightly condemn the increasing attacks led by settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank. And obviously, we want to try and encourage stability in this part of the region. That's extremely important. And also, we talked about the next day. What happens after the hostilities stop? We need to think about how Gaza can be managed. We need to be able to use the EU know-how along with the UN and other partners on this topic. How can we be involved in that? How can we put our knowledge to good use, and how can we offer operational help to strengthen the Palestinian Authority so that the Palestinian Authority can be in a position where it can be a credible and legitimate power, not just an administrative power, but also a political power. That's another important challenge. The meeting was extremely useful in this regard because it allowed us to have a discussion. We had discussions on European Council conclusions a few weeks ago, but the main aim today was to really focus on convergence and to really focus on what unites us, make sure that's solid and robust, and then to look at points where we need more political convergence so that we can have even more of an impact when it comes to our commitment and involvement with the Arab countries, with the United States, with other countries in the region, and of course with Israel and the representatives of the Palestinian Authority. And then just extremely briefly, migration. You will have seen that there was a discussion point on the agenda for that. That's a regular point, and we want to continue to strengthen our efforts on the external dimension and to work with third countries. We also have a rendezvous clause to continue reflection and work on Turkey-EU relations, and we also reiterated our attachment to the fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of intolerance, racism, discrimination and xenophobia, and that too is another point that we all agree on. And I can't stop or conclude my speech now without turning to Pedro and say this.
And to thank your team, the Spanish team, for the huge efforts for this great Spanish presidency. It was and it is a real pleasure to work with you, to cooperate with your team, and it's impressive what you have achieved in the recent weeks and months. But I know that you will have some difficult topics on the agenda for next week. You can count on us to support and to continue to work with you and with your team. Cher Pedro, je voudrais vraiment du fond du cœur te
Pedro, I would really like to thank you most warmly for your excellent cooperation throughout your presidency, which has been characterized by some significant highlights, which I'm sure you'll be mentioning.
Line, you have the floor.